Hey everyone, this is Sheema. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking to you about sex abuse or child abuse, however you want to look at it, but I'm really going to be talking to you about ways how parents can protect themselves and their children from predators, particularly sexual predators. Because let me tell you something, sometimes it's very hard, right? Being a parent, it ain't easy, right? It's difficult for us to protect our children from everything. There's so much going on in the world, whether it's social media, whether it's who their friends are, and we don't know who they are, whether it's what's happening at school, the risk factors out here. So there's so many things as parents that we have to, be mindful of and just try to protect our children from the time they're born to the world up until they're 18 years old and after. And so I really want to come in here and share with you today, just talking to you how to protect yourself and give you 10 ways how to protect yourself and your children from sexual predators. Okay. So let's talk about it. When I talk about sexual predators, I know it's a very harsh word, sexual predator, right? That's thinking, have your mindset and thinking that it's somebody who's hiding behind a bush or who's at the park scoping out all the children and figuring out, trying to figure out how they can abduct them and all those kind of things, right? And let's be honest, yes, those things do happen. Strangers, do adopt, do abduct children, do harmful and horrible things to children. Okay, all those things happen. But I want to talk to you about the people who aren't strangers. They're not necessarily strangers, the ones that are hiding behind the bushes, the man who's in the park, trying to seek out those children to snatch, and people who are in the mall. We're not talking about strangers. I'm going to talk to you about today about those people who are predators, because they're predators too, that we have invited and welcomed into your life, right? Whether it's boyfriends, whether it's girlfriends, whether it's family members, whether it's close family friend, whether it's a babysitter, a childcare, provider or what have you. But I want to talk to you about protecting yourselves and things you can be more mindful of and have a different mindset when you're thinking about it. Because one thing I want you to understand about what happens when a child has been sexually abused is that that person has had to develop a relationship with you and your children. They've had to develop some trust with you guys, and because in order to be able to sexually abuse your child, that sexual predator, that offender, they need to have access to you and your children, unsupervised, unlimited sometimes, and uninterrupted access to your child. So I want to talk to you about those people, the ones who we trust, the ones that, are not hiding behind the bushes, but they're sitting right on your couch watching television with you or going to the mall with you. Okay. So let's talk about that. So the first thing I want you to think about when we're dealing with this is making sure that you let your children know that they can talk to you about anything that happens. Okay. I want you to always keep your mind open, your heart open, because sometimes when they tell us things and they say things, especially when they're younger, we don't want to believe it because let's be honest, they're saying these things about someone that we love, someone we may trust with our life, with their life, and that they've done something that's violated that trust for you and your child. So, but be able to recognize, number one, be able to recognize grooming behaviors. And what are grooming behaviors? Grooming behaviors are things that a predator is going to do in order to soften you and your children up to some of their inappropriate behavior that's going to come down the road. And so it's conditioning you and your children before they actually offend. Because their goal is to gain trust, gain access, and condition your child to physical contact. Understand that. The goal is eventually to get to offend your child. But the main goal when they're grooming is being able to soften you and your child to physical contact with them. Okay, that's number one. So I want you to be able to recognize those grooming behaviors and what they look like. The asking you or creating situations where they're alone more so with a child and being able to supervise them without you around, whether it's taking them baths, whether it's helping them get dressed, whether it's going to a simple basketball and games with them without and just being very helpful, but it's grooming behavior. Be able to recognize it and say, well, Sheema, what's wrong with them helping me out? Well, let me tell you something. If you just meet a guy and you guys are dating, I don't care if you're having sex with him. I don't care if he's laying in your bed and you trust him or whatever, but these are your children. So when I say grooming behavior, be mindful that a person you just met for 3 months shouldn't have unlimited access and unsupervised contact with your child. They shouldn't be like their dad or their mom. Okay. So be mindful of that. And they shouldn't be asking to do that stuff so quickly and so soon and so comfortably in your life when they just met you and barely know you or your children. Number 2, teach your child to report any touching of their person, their body, okay, by another adult or a child, okay? Predators tend to tickle, accidentally touch in the wrong places, like rubbing your teenager's butt as they went past in the kitchen or on the stairs, or groping them or bumping into them, hugging them, so much hugging and kissing, rubbing them on their back and their other parts of their body, sitting children on their laps, etc. And they're doing these things to test the boundaries, Remember, a sexual predator focuses on physical contact. Okay. So you want to be mindful of those things, but you want your child to understand that they can report that or say something about someone doing that to them, no matter who it is, even if it's their father and they did something to make them uncomfortable. You want them to report that and say that to you. It may be nothing, but it may be the beginning of something very important. Number three, teach your children to report any language or conversations that made them feel uncomfortable or were inappropriate in some kind of way or weird to them and sounded weird. Kids may not know what inappropriate means, or that if it's crossing boundaries or if it's made them feel uncomfortable some ways, but they may say, oh, he's weird, or he said some weird stuff, mommy. And when you hear your kids say those things, ask them to elaborate. What are they talking about? And looking for lines of there, because predators are looking for lines of communication they can share with your child, especially of a sexual nature, even jokes. So what does it look like? You say, what does it look like then? Jokes, inappropriate sexual jokes or adult jokes. Someone's in there sharing jokes about dating or women or men with a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, or even with your teenager. Because sometimes, don't get it twisted, these are the things that happens with teenagers, or pre-teenagers, inappropriate jokes, discussing adult theme reality shows with them, and talking about sexual topics with them. It's not really their place to be talking to them about it, okay? And don't you give them the permission or the responsibility. If it's your child, especially if it's the boyfriend, fiance, it's not that child's, biological father or a mother, then you don't give them the opportunity or the responsibility of teaching your child about the bees, whatever they call that, about everything. You take that responsibility onto yourself. I don't care if he's a guy and he's a guy. Doesn't matter. You don't give them the total responsibility and a total task of doing that as a parent. You take on that too. Okay. Number 4, Teach your child to maintain appropriate boundaries at all times with people who come into your home, your relatives, your friends, your neighbors, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your fiance, any of these things, your coworker who may come over and hang out every now and then. Teach your children to maintain appropriate boundaries at all times. Mindfulness of being overly, showing overly physical contact and not showing their body. And when I say overly physical contact, I mean like, you know, um, that your child just jumping on someone's body. You have a friend that's in your home. So you have a boyfriend or a male friend that visits you or whatever, or even a relative, okay? And your child is already is jumping on their lap, jumping all on them, kissing them, touching them. Teach them, especially when they're young, 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds. You want to start early teaching them appropriate boundaries. When you begin to let them be around people and they're engaging in relationships and building relationships with people, you want to make sure that they understand what boundaries are. You want to understand that they make sure they know what boundaries are on their bodies. They're not just they don't just lift their shirt up or anybody unless they're at the doctor's office or a medical professional and you're there with them. Teach them that's not even appropriate to do that at school. I don't care if the school asks them to, if the school nurse asks them to, if the teacher asks them to, if Principal James asks them to. If you are not there with them and have given them permission to show their body to them in a physical exam room, then they need to know that they can say no. I don't want to show you my body. I don't want to pull my pants down and show you where I got spanked by my mom. All of those things, make sure they understand, that it's okay to protect their body. It's their body, and because they're children, sometimes, predators, sexual predators, they will test to make your kids overstep those boundaries, to allow them to overstep their boundaries. What else does it look like? Sitting on your kids' beds, going to your kids' bedroom or bathroom while they're showering, while they're changing clothes, while they're using the bathroom. Oops, I didn't know you were in there. Of course you did. No alone time with them. Okay, just because. So these are boundaries that you may not always think about, but these are boundaries that you need to be mindful of, because look at what we're talking about. We're talking about protecting our babies, our children, protecting the most precious cargo that can be on any transportation vehicle. Our children, they are to be protected, and they are precious. They are more precious than anything that you can ever put a price tag on. And so we have to be mindful of protecting them and understand, and don't be so close-minded and to think that these things can't, won't, and don't happen, because they do every day. Every day, 1 in 5 children are being exposed to some form of child abuse. Did you hear that? 1 out of 5 children. Okay, so this is no joke, so we're not letting kids walk around, run around the house in front of in company with their underwear on, with their diapers on. I don't care, even family members. I don't care, even because they're a baby, or she's just 2, it's just her underwear, she's her panties. No. No, we're not. We're not doing that. You got to be more protective. Create those boundaries in your household. Okay, what else? So then, you want to make sure, I'm on what, number 5? So number 5, you want to make sure you have those lines of communication open for you. Your children need to know that they can share with you whatever they need to share with you at all times, anything, without fear of you blowing up, without fear of you just kind of not believing them, without fear of being mad at them for what they're saying and what they're going to tell you. Because when they tell you this, we're talking about sexual predators who have had access to your children, who we've invited into our home, who we love, who we trust. So when they say some of these things to you, when they tell you that Uncle Johnny touched my butt, When they tell you that cousin Johnny put his mouth on my private part. When they tell you that he put his finger up my vagina. When they say these things to you, and they're saying this to you about someone that you love, your boyfriend, your fiance, their father, their mother, their uncle, their grandfather, your bestie, your close family friend, when they say these things to you about this, oh my gosh, they know how you feel about this person. So when but they need to know that when it comes down to them telling you these things, opening up with you and sharing these things with you, that you're going to be okay with it, at least with them, that they can share it with you without repercussion, without being hurt by you, without being threatened, and with you believing what they're saying, no matter how hard it is, no matter who it is they're saying it about. Okay, so make sure they know that. We want our children, we want our children to recognize when there's I want you to start recognizing, not you recognizing, but understand that sexual predators recognize, when there's a breakdown in your relationship, especially parent-child communication. Sometimes they intentionally create it in order so they can gain that access to that child and isolate you and them from one another, okay? So understand that. Number 6, stay in tune with your child consistently, especially those children who have already been victimized in some way, right? Not just sexual abuse, but children who have already been traumatized through some kind of abuse by a relative, by you, by another parent, if they've been involved in domestic violence relationships, things of that nature, always, be mindful of them. Children who have special needs, and I mean special needs, not the ones who are just limited contact or have autism or, developmental delays, but I'm talking about children who have ADHD, who have mental health problems, who have emotional problems, things of this nature. Your children, when they are like that, they're very vulnerable. They're very vulnerable. And sexual predators know this. Understand that they know this. And they understand this more than you do. They understand the intricacies and the dynamics between you and your child's relationship better than you do, because of what they're planning on doing to you. They need to study it in order to gain access, in order to build trust, in order to build rapport, in order to break down those lines of communication between you and your child, in order to be able to have unlimited access and unsupervised. They need to break down those communication lines between you and your child. So pay attention to those things when they're happening. Don't blow it off. Don't allow it to happen. Be mindful of it, especially kids who are, are very friendly, very friendly, and children, who initiate physical contact too. So you have a kid who is warm and fuzzy, they're your huggy buggy, right? And so, they're like that. And the ones who are withdrawn and shy, and some of them who are attention seeking, those children tend to be more easily manipulated by that sexual predator, into not telling adults what's happening, into not sharing with you what they're doing. Some of the things when they're, oops, I didn't know you were in the bathroom. Oh, you're getting dressed? Yeah, but you didn't know I was in here. But why are you opening the door without knocking? Why are you coming to my bedroom? I don't need you in here. You're 6 and 7, and you're as far as I'm concerned, once you teach your child how to wipe their butt, how to take themselves a shower or a bath, they don't need any help from your boyfriend, your fiance, anyone, Auntie Jane, Uncle Joni, whoever. They don't need any help. So be mindful of someone who is so willing and eager to help in those areas, to do these things, to take over your parenting responsibilities. of your children. Be mindful of that, okay? Especially with your special needs children. Be mindful of that, okay? And then where are we at? So let's see. Number 7. My bad, y'all. Number 7. Excuse me. Make sure you adopt a no secrets policy in your household. Make sure your children know that we don't keep secrets. We don't allow anybody to come in and say, this is a secret. Keep a secret between you and I. Don't tell your mom this. Don't let your brother know this. Don't tell your sister this. Oh, this is just between you and I. Make sure your kids know there's no secrets here. So whatever he said to you, whatever she said to you, whatever they did to you, you share it with me. You know, because parents are often looking for ways that they can isolate children from their parents, okay, by allowing them to have things or to do things that they know that you may not approve of, or things you have told them they cannot do, things as simple as eating candy or having an extra snack before dinner time, or watching that inappropriate adult themed TV show or cartoon. Okay? These things, make sure, you know, because they want to get your child into being able to engage in behaviors that they can eventually have them keeping a secret, watching pornography, looking at pornography magazines, and they're not supposed to. And especially your teenagers, letting them play, you know, inappropriate video games. When you told little Johnny or little Sarah they can't do it, but this person is always allowing them to do it. And it's usually things that are inappropriate. It's not for their age, or maybe something they may do with their friends, but they shouldn't be doing it with an adult. You know, and then, because what happens, right, is that they use these things because the child knows, whether they're 5 years old or 15 years old, they know that they're not supposed to be doing the thing that that person is allowing them to do, the pornography, or going over here, or drinking a little bit of wine or beer when mom's not looking, having a little bite of the gummy, smoking the weed, you know, all of these things that you have told them not to do, their parent, you know, that person, that your child knows that. So when they're allowing that child to engage in that behavior, to watch that, to have that, those things that you told them not to do, they're using that as an opportunity to get to the point where now they can say, oh, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get punished. So you better not tell your mom that I let you do that. You know, so now there it is. They're getting them, without the child even thinking about it, the no secrets rule. They're getting them to keep a secret out of fear that they may get punished, or that they know they were doing something that they shouldn't have been doing, or they were eating something that they shouldn't have been doing. And now they have that over them. Be mindful of that, okay? So when you have a person that consistently and continues to allow your child to do things, and let me tell you, I want to be very specific. Inappropriate things sometimes, but not necessarily totally inappropriate or sexual nature, but things that are getting them to keep secrets, things that are getting them to engage in things that you have told them not to, and it's not good for them. Okay, so be mindful of that. Okay, so then number 8 is that don't be so willing. This might be number 9, but 8, whatever. Don't be so willing to let adults have unlimited access and authority over your child, no matter who they are, no matter what the circumstances are, because sexual predators also groom parents. They groom you too. Because in order to do these heinous activities, in order to violate your children, in order to offend your child and abuse them, they will eventually have to have some level of unsupervised contact and access to them. So at some point, and throughout the whole entire relationship, you may not even know this, they're grooming you so they can eventually do what they want to do to your child. So be mindful of that. They're also, because they're grooming you in order to gain access, and they always, be mindful of this new boyfriend, this new girlfriend, or this kind of friend of the family, or this uncle, or this whatever, always, offering lots of favors for nothing in return, offering to always babysit your children or take them on outings without you, helping you discipline them, etc. Be mindful of that, and don't be so willing and able to just hand them over. Where they're always the one taking them to their lessons, to their sports events, taking them to the park to play with them. The only ones in their bedroom playing the video game with them. Be mindful, parents. I'm talking to you today because there are too many children out here being hurt, being sexually abused, being raped, being killed, being abducted, because we as parents are just simply not paying attention. We're simply not paying attention sometimes. All the red flags are there, all the signs are there, and we're just ignoring them. Okay? And so number 9, be involved in all activities your child is involved in, with coaches, with teachers, with youth groups leaders, including church, extracurricular activities, tutoring, etc. Be 100% involved in it. Don't just willingly and easily allow people to have access to your children who you don't know. How do you know you can trust them? All you know is that they're a coach. All you know is that they're a music teacher. All you know is they're the math tutor. That's all you know. You may not know anything else, okay? You may not know anything else. So don't be so easy and willing to just drop them off and then go on running down the street to do whatever you want to do while they're in lessons, while they're at the game, while they're in practice, and always, oh no, I can bring them home. Coach Jones, I can bring them home. I can drop them off at home. Always. No, show up sometimes and pick your own kid up and bring them home. Show up sometimes to the practice and see what's going on. Be mindful of that. There is no need, to always have for anybody to be engaging in one-on-ones. Always want to teach your child something extra because they need it. Oh, really? Do they? So be mindful of that. And, unless you're present, our kids, I want you to listen to this, because this is very important. Because sometimes we wonder, well, why didn't they say anything? Why didn't she tell me? Why did he say anything? I didn't know. I didn't see the signs. I wasn't, so busy. Listen, I'm gonna tell you why sometimes. Our kids trust those who we put in authority over them. They trust them too, whether they have weird feelings or not. They trust who we trust. So, but make sure they understand, appropriate boundaries. That's why it's important to go back to my appropriate boundaries point. They understand appropriate boundaries, and that their body is their body, and that, all the number 1 through 8 I just said to you, make sure they understand that, because guess what? All those things I just told you before I got to number 9. Because guess what? They trust who we trust. If we trust the boyfriend, the fiance, Uncle Johnny, Grandpa Jim, Aunt Sally, Cousin Joe to babysit them, if we put them in authority over our children, if we let them supervise them unwarrantedly, if we trust them, then they think that they can trust them. And sometimes they may even think that you know what's going on, because you continue to take them over here, even though I told you I don't like going over here, because you trust them. Okay. And number 10, all the stuff is important that I've said today, but this one is very important. Listen to and believe your child when they come to you with concerns about an adult or any person. Kids rarely make up stories and of accusing or being abused or victimized, even if it seems so far-fetched. Excuse me. Even if what they're telling you seems so mind-blowing, even if it seems so unusual, they would never do that. They're so kind. I trust them. This is who is hurting your children. People we trust. People we would never think would do something like this to our child. But they do, and they will, and they are. Okay. So when your kid says something, there are usually some truths to it, right? You know, and sometimes they're telling you things before maybe the big thing happens. They're saying things like, I don't like them anymore. They're weird. Yeah, he makes me feel uncomfortable. Oh, I hate going over there. I don't want to go with him. And you're wondering, why wouldn't my child who loves ice cream wouldn't want to go to the ice cream parlor? Why all of a sudden they don't like to go and play basketball with them anymore? Huh? Think about those things. Someone they've always loved, they've always liked, they'll always like hanging out with. And now they're begging you not to go. Now they're crying because they have to go. Start thinking about that. What is going on? Why doesn't your child, don't just blow it off and say they're being difficult, they're whining. And I understand you got to go to work. I understand you got to make a living. I understand you got to do these things. We're parents. We got to make money. We got to survive. We got to take care and keep a roof over their head, food in their mouth, clothes on their back. I understand all of that. But when your kid starts telling you things, when their behavior starts changing, they're more withdrawn. They're acting out more. People are reporting things that are unusual behavior of your child. It's time to hone in to what's happening. It's time to pay attention, mommy and daddy. It's time to pay attention and understanding what's going on when that person starts coming over to the house and your kid starts getting weird, acting different, or runs away, or no longer wants to hug them or touch them, like, yeah, I'm good, or, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that because something is going on. It may not, maybe the predator, maybe the thing hasn't happened, where they're going to, have abused them yet, but they may tell you things when it's grooming behavior. When it's grooming behavior, when that person is trying to gain access, more access, when that person is trying to break down those walls so they can have more physical contact, your child may say things to you then. Pay attention. Okay, pay attention to it. And don't be so willingly able to believe this person over your baby. Okay. And so, hey, I know this stuff is difficult to deal with. I know it is because, sometimes, some of us, have been violated, right? Some of us have been sexually abused. And we haven't dealt with our own trauma, our own victimization. And so when this happens and when it's happening right before you, and I'm calling some of you out because some of you see it happening before you. You recognize the signs. You recognize the behavior in your child. You recognize the withdrawalness, the I don't want to go-ness, the I don't like this person is. You recognize that fear. You know what it looks like. But because you haven't dealt with your own shit, you're allowing it to happen to your baby. And that's not right. That's not cool. You have to pay attention and don't allow it to happen to them. And other thing about it is that sometimes, you all are just too busy with your own life. You're too busy with your own life. You're too busy with your own life that you're not paying attention to what's happening to your children. But I'm telling you today, there are ways to protect your children from sexual predators, you and yourself, because I want you to understand and make no mistake that person who is doing this to your children, who's planning to do this children, they are planning this. This is intentional. They didn't just, oh, well, he got drunk and slipped into the wrong bed and fondled my child. Really? You believe that? You really believe that? Sexual predators don't just prey because they're drunk. It is a planned process that they've worked very hard to. They've even preyed on you before you even know it, before they've even developed a closer relationship with you. You have been their first prey. Because in order to have access to the child, to sexually abuse a child, hear me loud and clear, they have to have access to them. Access to our children are provided by us. So we have to do a better job. We have to pay more closer attention because children are going to be threatened. They are going to be afraid to tell for all kinds of reasons. They could be protecting you because they know how much you like this person, you love this person. Or they know that this person pays the rent, feeds them. And that it's going to be devastating if they say, or they're protecting the person because they love them too. They love them too. Remember, it's someone they trust, that they love, they respect. And so they may not want to get them in trouble. And that predator has made sure that they have used that guilt card on them and that sense of fear on them. So there's lots of reasons why they don't tell. That's another video. I'll record that video for you too. And then we'll talk about the reasons why children don't share the sexual abuse that they're going through. Okay. But for now, I want you to go back because I was talking really fast. I shared a lot of information. Go back and look at these 1 through 10 things I talked about on how to protect you and your children from sexual predators. Okay. Nothing's foolproof. People who are evil and are horrible persons to do things like this to children, they are trying to find a way. And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we can't catch it before it happens. Okay. But we can only do better when we know better. And today, if you listen to this video, I just helped you know better. So I expect you to do better. Thanks for joining me today, watching my channel. If you would like to hear more things like this and me coming to you, talking to you about, things about parenting, some of the easy things, some of the hard things, make sure you click my subscribe button and you'll know when my videos post, throughout the week, or throughout the month. But for now, toodles, thanks for staying here with me. And I hope what I shared with you today was very helpful in some kind of way. Make sure you let someone else know. If it wasn't for you, share it with somebody else. Thank you. And remember, parenting ain't easy, but with commitment, consistency, and compassion, you can do a good job.